all set.
Awesome. Are you listening? Damn.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Damn Podcast. I am your host, Angie Machado. Joined with me, as always, Jake Hedberg, Beaver Blitz beat writer. Ty is unable to make it today, so it's just the two of us, Jake, like old times, the original gangsters right now. How are you?
Doing well. Getting ready for Thanksgiving break here next week. Got a few fun weeks planned out, so yeah, pretty excited.
Awesome. Yes, we are getting close. My kiddo down in Arizona is coming home this weekend, so that'll be fun. He's going to the Washington State game with us, so that will be fun for him. And if you're watching us live, make sure if you have any comments and you're on the YouTube channel, go ahead and post those in the comments. If you're on X and watching us, I do have my X pulled up, so hopefully I can see something. Just tag me on it. We do have some damn questions. We are going to have a rundown of the show. We're going to talk the Air Force loss. Then I also want Jake to dive in and look at the 10-game stats, the big picture, kind of where Oregon State ranks across the board, offense and defense. And then we're going to talk Washington State and then get to some listener questions. The season is wrapping up. We are 2 games left. I don't see the Beavs making a bowl game, but then we hit recruiting. So recruiting is going to be interesting because, and we'll save that for a later show. But I see big things, portal and recruiting coming.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the next 3 or 4 weeks are going to be super busy. With the whole with National Signing Day being pushed up to the first week of December now, and then with it looking like Oregon State's season will come to the close on November 29th. It looks like that next week and a half, 2 weeks is going to be jam-packed with guys transferring and then Oregon State starting to bring guys in through the portal. So it's definitely going to be a busy time. Be sure to stay in the lodge because we'll have all the info on transfers on campus, guys transferring out, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, and just a quick plug as well. If you're not a member of Beaver Blitz, stay tuned because there is the best sale of the year is Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So be on the lookout for that starting next week. It is the best time of the year to get involved and get that membership to Beaver Blitz. Because yes, as Jake said, all the comings and goings with the portal, who's leaving, who's coming, as well as our coverage of the new signees. Jake's already working on that. So we have a fun day planned for Wednesday, the 3rd. Is that right? 4th,
I think.
4th, yeah. Okay, so I really don't have a lot to say about that loss to Air Force. It was the first time Oregon State had been shut out since 2015. The offense only had 175 yards total. I thought it couldn't get much worse than Cal. Air Force says, hold my beer. Jake, I think the biggest question going into this, defensively, we know there's struggles. There's lots of injuries, young guys playing. The biggest surprise, I think, for many Beaver fans is the offense. What is, Air Force had a D lineman say after the game that he didn't know what Oregon State was trying to do offensively. Do you know what Oregon State's trying to do offensively?
No, I didn't. Going into that, knowing you weren't going to have Ben Gilbranson, I would have liked to see a better plan throughout the week. Sources were telling us that Gilbranson wasn't, that the staff knew well in advance. Like, it wasn't the thing that happened on Thursday or Friday where they kind of had to scramble. What I was told, at least, is that the staff had the week to prepare for it. And to me, I do not think the best thing to do is to alternate quarterbacks. I think that's really hard for not even a quarterback individually, but the offense as a whole to kind of get into a good groove, find that rhythm. And I think we saw that. I think the offense obviously didn't move the ball well at all. And I thought when they didn't move the ball, they turned the ball over. There was Jabari Johnson tossed the interception. They turned the ball over on downs a handful of times. And it was just really overall a terrible day for the offense. The run game couldn't get anything going. It was very bad.
Yeah. Like I said, there really any positives to take away from that game. It was, and we've said that a few times about, a bad game, just flush it, move on. But let's talk defense. Let's talk a little defense, because that's something else. Do you still feel that this is a young, inexperienced, that we're just seeing youth, and that this could be a good building block for the future? Or what are your thoughts on the defense?
What I personally would like to see is I'd like to see Trent Bray kind of take back over the defense. What we've seen from Trent during his first year is more of a hands-off approach. And I think for the Beavers to be successful, I mean, we saw how Jonathan Smith's teams were until Trent Bray took over as defensive coordinator. They weren't very good. I think Trent's one of the top defensive minds in college football, and I think for the Beavers defense to reach that level of success they had attained in 2022, 2023, I think having Trent Bray, being more hands-on would go a long way to that. And I think it'll be interesting to see if that changes as the season comes to a close, and going into the offseason if Trent decides to take back over.
Yeah. So Dobby in the comments said, Bray said he has never coached or been on a team with this many injuries. And I said the same. Jake and I talked earlier today, and I said, I don't think I've ever covered a team that has this many, especially defensively. Also, Bray was on Yogi Ross' podcast, and it was interesting because Yogi asked him about what it was like, with coordinators. And he basically said he wants to be the type of head coach he wanted to have as a coordinator. So trying to stay as hands off as possible, making sure his thoughts and his suggestions come at the right time. And just, I think both sides of the ball, I think they're all learning on that. So it'll be an interesting offseason. I mean, I think that's the one thing you take from a team that's kind of in a spiral right now, is the off season. Hope springs eternal, I guess. Spring ball will be an interesting one, but there's so much more to little intricacies to watch. Coaching shakeups, like will guys, kind of be tweaked in what they're coaching. Like I said, recruiting. What guys will depart? Which guys will stick around? Which guys will they bring in? I think there's several position groups that will look completely different next spring, next fall. So that is the kind of the overriding. Like I said, I don't want to spend a ton of time on Air Force, because it seems like the past 5 weeks has been nothing but kind of doom and gloom with Beavers losing. Let's just dive in though and talk stats, okay? Because I think this is something. I mean, there's a lot of stat geeks out there, but I think this is something that can really kind of things that you can really point to. Went to the NC2A page just to see where Oregon State ranked, and we'll start with the offense. Total offense, they rank 68th in the country. They're averaging 386.1 yards per game. But that number has been brought down tremendously by that Cal and Air Force game. Passing offense ranks 105. I don't think that's a huge surprise there. Rushing offense ranks 24, which that's got to be tumbling, because
it was like top 15, top 10.
Yeah. Here's where the couple things that really stand out to me. Red zone offense, 114. Sacks allowed is tied for 87th. Turnover margin, tied for 101st, and they're -5. They've taken 12 turnovers and lost 17. And here's a huge one, Jake. We've talked about it. 4 passing touchdowns all season. 4. That goes hand in hand with the red zone offense, with passing offense being 105th. Where does Oregon State go from here offensively? I mean, maybe not this season, but is it pass blocking? Is it quarterback? Is it wide receiver play? Is it all the above?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I think a big part of it is quarterback play. I think it's receiver play as well, as the Beavers really have no receiver outside of Trent Walker. That's consistent. I mean, there's been guys like Taz Reddick that'll have a nice game, same with Jeremiah Noga or Clemens, but they don't consistently put it together. Whether that's on the coaching staff or the players, I'm not in the building every day. I don't know what's going on there necessarily, but it's just not good. I mean, to have out of your wide receiver room to have 3 touchdowns in 10 games, you have 1 touchdown on a tight end. It's not good. I think part of it's play calling, part of it's execution, and I just think a lot of it is the Beavers don't really have a great quarterback.
Yeah, there's no 1,000-yard receiver this year. Trent Walker is obviously,
Unless Trent has 2 really good games.
Yes, yeah. So as of right now, at 10 games in, there is no 1,000-yard receiver. But yeah, that 4 passing TDs is, and we've kind of touched on it in the past, but I think it begs to be brought up a little bit more. And then the 105th ranked passing offense, red zone offense, 114. You guys, this is out of 134 teams, so it's bad. And it's not like I need to tell you that, because you've been seeing what's happening on the field. Defensively, it's a little different. Total defense is not good at 96. And rush defense is 104. Pass defense at 59. Red zone D is actually doing decent at 41. But here's where Oregon State defense is super struggling, and that's at sacks. They are last place, 133rd, with 7 total sacks on the year. So I think the 2 numbers that stand out to me offensively is the 4 passing touchdowns, and defensively is the 7 sacks. Do those numbers kind of paint a picture of where this team is at?
Yeah, there's no other way to describe it besides terrible. 7 sacks is – we saw Chatfield last year get 9.5 himself. So the fact that the Beavers had 7 sacks during the COVID season, and that was, 6-7 games? It's not good. There's not a lot of depth, but there's been no interior pass rush.
None.
Thomas Collins has been the only defensive tackle to apply pressure at all, pretty much. The edges, it's been Taylor, Saez, Omatoshu's gotten in there a little bit, but it's tough when there's no interior push to kind of force the quarterback out the pocket. It's a lot easier as an outside linebacker if the quarterback's coming straight at you. It's on Holf. It's there's attack was harder, but it's just not good. It's terrible. It's for 7 sacks in 10 games.
I'm going to point, if you haven't, today media availability was Eliza Tuiaki, D-line coach. He was asked about pass rush. He kind of punted to saying that the interior, he coaches the interior D-line, and the edge rushers are coached by a defensive quality control coach, Coach Marshall, and you'd have to ask him. That he's not in the room. Now, Jake, I paused and I rewound that and watched it again because it made me pause a little bit. He's the defensive line coach. Wouldn't you think he'd be in the room?
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting thing to hear being said out there. You'd think that even if they're not in the same room, you'd think there's you spend those 2 groups go so hand in hand. You'd think there'd be more communication or, more time spent together in practice. Maybe, we aren't watching practice anymore, so we really don't know how they're practicing at the moment. But you'd think that there'd be a lot of cohesion between the 2 groups, but maybe there's not.
It just struck me as just different. I even asked my son, who plays high school football, and I talked to him about, he plays edge rush. He's an edge rusher. He's like, oh gosh, our D-line coach is in the room, or in meetings half the time. So I don't know. I get it. Everybody was probably going to be pointing fingers and trying to save face, but I don't know. In my world, a defensive line coach is over all of it. But you're right. It is and Coach Tuiaki addressed this as well. It's, if the outside rushers are not getting any pressure, then it makes the interior job harder. But I would say interior job not getting any push at all either is making the exterior, the edge rushers and the linebackers job that much harder as well. So it's a unit.
I'd say the outside linebackers have been doing a better job applying pressure than, because really it's only been Collins inside.
And we missed Collins several weeks.
He's playing more. He barely even played last week.
But again, we don't know how healthy, he'd been out for several weeks. I don't know. There's a lot of, I think the stats, so looking at those 10 game stats, it is eye-opening. You don't need stats to tell you when you're bad or when you're good, but it does point to a lot of areas I think Oregon State needs to shore up this offseason. This is going to be a shorter pod today, by the way, just because we're not going to seriously sit and just go over and over beating a dead horse with that Air Force loss. So let's, again, if you're not a member of Beaver Blitz, we talked about at the very beginning of the show. We have a lot of people that have jumped on. Make sure to keep an eye out this next week for our Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal, the best time of the year to join. And you will definitely want to be a member of Blitz to keep up in the lodge with all of the comings and goings with the portal coming. So it's going to be an interesting, probably 3-4 weeks into December. Oregon State does not appear to be looking like they're going to be bowl eligible. So it will be all coverage of basketball and the transfer portal. So you'll definitely want to be there for that. Let's talk some Pac-2 Championship, Jake. It's the Pac-2 Championship weekend. Washington State comes to town 8-2 with a loss early in the season to Boise, and then this last week, kind of a shocking loss to New Mexico. The Cougs are coming in right now as 12.5-point favorites. Give me your 10,000-foot thoughts on the Cougars.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very good football team. I think they're very well coached. I think Coach Dickert's a good coach. They have a great offensive coordinator in Ben Arbuckle. Really a team that kept a decent chunk of their team from last year, which is crucial in today's day and age. A really good quarterback in John Petier. He has taken over for Cam Ward, and I think he's outplayed how Cam Ward played last year at Washington State. Obviously, the strength of schedule is not as hard, but he's been lights out. I want to see his 26 touchdowns through the air and 12 on the ground. They have a really good true freshman running back in Sean Parker, who is going to give Oregon State some headaches defensively. And then they get back Kyle Williams, who was one of the two receivers that just killed Oregon State in 2023. He's back. He's had a good year with 11 touchdown catches already. He's going to be a tough task for the Oregon State secondary. And then it's a team that has a good, not great, not bad defense. They could be a lot better, could be a lot worse. But, again, it's going to be one of the better defensive units Oregon State's really faced this season.
Okay, their rankings are horrible, the defense.
I think they're a lot better than the rankings.
Okay, because I did as I was going through all the NCAA stuff, looking at Oregon State, I noticed the Cougs. So the total defense is ranked 117. They are 111th in passing yards allowed and 102nd in rushing yards allowed.
Yeah, I think they're better than that. I mean,
okay.
I think Coach Dickert's a good coach. I think that they are better than that. I think they have two really good linebackers in Kyle Thornton and I'm going to butcher his last name, Tariq Al-Umta. I don't know how to say that. A pretty good young corner as well. Obviously, still a lot of room to grow, but I do think they're a lot better than that ranking, and it'll be tough for Oregon State to move the football on them because the Beavers have struggled to move the football 2 out of their last 3 games. So it'll be.
So Jake, you're telling me here, I thought there might be a bright spot. Oregon State might be able to, open up the passing game or something, but you're telling me
hopefully,
that's not going to happen.
I mean, we'll see with the quarterback. It sounds like we're not really going to know about if Gilbranson will be back until the day of the game. I would imagine the coaching staff's going to keep that under wraps. If he doesn't go, I would imagine Jabari Johnson gets to start. So we'll kind of see how that goes. We've seen him for a game, but we haven't really seen outside of that. So it'll be interesting to see how Jabari plays if Ben Gilbranson can't go.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting. I'm just looking. We have questions in here. A couple of you guys that are posting questions. Awesome, keep doing that. But we'll get to some of them during the damn question time. But I do want to. Andy Baseball, is Oregon State catching Washington State at a good time since they were just upset by New Mexico? Do you think this is a good time to catch them, or do you think?
I'd argue that Coach Dickert's going to have them ready to go and jack back up because they're still playing for the difference between the LA Bowl or the Vegas Bowl or the Holiday Bowl. So into a school like Washington State, just like us, it's like there's a big difference between going to the Independence Bowl or the LA Bowl to go into the Holiday or the Alamo. So that's why I think they're still going to be, pushing hard, because if you look at really the former Pac-12 schools, I mean, you can assume Oregon's a lock for the playoff. Colorado's pushing for a spot. There's spots at the Alamo Bowl, the Holiday Bowl, kind of that upper tier of the bowl games. And, I'm sure Washington State wants to go out and prove to everybody that they belonged at the Power 4 level, just like Oregon State did. And, finding themselves in one of those top tier bowls against a better Big 12 team or better ACC team would really go a long way.
Yeah, I do think you and I talked about this off air, but Washington State, has been able to, I think it speaks volumes to how important it is for continuity and staff, just because, Oregon State lost, 19 starters from last year?
19 starters, yep.
Yeah, so, and their entire coaching staff, or most of their coaching staff.
I don't think they lost. I think they lost an offensive line coach, but that was it.
That was it, yeah. And they were able to keep, yes, they lost Cam Ward, but they were able to keep the nucleus of the team together. So I think that just is another example of how important that continuity is with coaching. Yes, John Mateer is the leading rusher on this team. He's averaging 69.5 yards a game. And then passing, he has completed 191 of 302 passes for 2,700 yards, 6 interceptions, and 26 TDs. Pretty decent stat line there.
He's a good quarterback. He's taken over for Cam Ward and just ran with it. He's a true dual threat guy. I think if you take away sack yardages, he's averaging over 80 yards a game. So he's really an explosive athlete that can throw the ball well. And the Beavers, they haven't really played a whole lot of running quarterbacks this year, but when they have, if you look at Nevada and Brendan Lewis, it did not go great for Oregon State. So hopefully there can be a bounce back performance there.
Yeah. So I ask you this every week, Jake, but what does Oregon State need to do for the win?
Really just time of possession, just hold the ball, and they have to capitalize once they get the ball in Washington State territories. This is a game that Oregon State's not going to win based off of field goals. It's like Everett Hayes has been doing a lot better this season, but they can't rely on him to win them this game. They're going to have to put up points, because I don't know how much trust there is on the defense to hold an explosive Washington State offense to below, 24, 30 points, which is based off what we've seen the last 3 weeks. It'll be tough for Oregon State to reach even 17. So
yeah. No, I agree. Do you think this is, 2 games left? Do you think there are any players that we might see? You and I talked about this, but do you think we see a Durant or, see more of the younger guys maybe get a chance, or do you think they stick with the same?
Yeah, I don't see really why not. I don't think the production you've been getting out of guys at the receiver room outside of Trent Walker has been where you want it to be. So why not let a guy like, Malachi Durant, who's a talented kid,
we're talking about Cooper Jensen.
Yeah. Maybe we see some Cornell Hatcher in the next game or two. And then I feel like defensively, we're already playing pretty young. But, offensively, I'd like to see some of those younger guys.
Defensively, it's pretty young already. Andy Baseball said Jordan Anderson is another one. We saw a little bit of Jordan against Air Force.
Yeah, he's played 4 games, though. So
okay. Okay, so he might not play. But then, yeah, there's some other guys. Defensively, I know I can't even really think of any young guy that.
The only one that hasn't played has been on scholarships, Haverland. Everyone else has had to.
Okay, yeah.
Everything that's healthy. It's really been.
It is. It's been all hands on deck. But offensively, yeah, there's been some guys, like I said, either redshirt freshmen like Cooper Jensen.
I wouldn't mind seeing some Carson Colby even. It's kind of under the radar name. He was a freshman tight end, preferred walk-on. He's played the past teams on special teams, but he had a really strong fall.
He did.
Camp. So, with the lack of receiving that we've had there, maybe it's time to mix things up and go there.
What do you think? Like in the lodge, people have. Obviously, the most popular guy on any team is the backup quarterback, or in Oregon State's coach or case, like maybe the 4th, 5th string. What do you think to the people who have asked to see maybe a little Don Montiel?
I don't think that'll happen. I think the staff's got their main three guys. I mean, who knows? Maybe we do see a Jake Sanders or a Don Montiel, but I would guess it's more of a Jabari Johnson, Ben Gulbranson. I'm personally not expecting to see McCoy start the game. Just kind of a gut feeling I have that they'll go with Jabari Johnson if Gulbranson can't go.
Well, and then interesting, you were at Coach Bray's press conference on Monday, and we have talked about McCoy. He got banged up at Colorado State with undisclosed. We'd heard kind of hand, we'd heard shoulder. Nobody on the staff had even confirmed that, but Trent Bray did talk about him being banged up some.
Yeah, I mean, he has been playing with like a splint on his pinky. I don't know if that's affecting him at all. I've heard he might be dealing with some rib injuries or something like that.
That's what I've heard that too.
He hasn't really been an effective passer all season long. He's been a great runner. But again, we haven't really seen that since UNLV, and it's been 3 games since then. Again, you can't rely on your quarterback to just run the ball. Like, you need to have a passing presence. But the thing is does Jabari Johnson provide that? Maybe. Does Ben Gulbranson? Yeah, maybe. Again, it's just there's just no one that really stands out, and that's an issue, especially when you're week 11 now of the football season.
Yeah. Well, and that was a worry we had in spring and fall. I mean, I remember you and I talking fall camp that our two biggest concerns were D-line and quarterback. I
mean, I put down Gulbranson as a starter. I mean, I thought he had the best camp.
I thought Gulbranson might be the safe pick, and that's what but then he goes and throws interceptions when he gets his shot too. So Bari, all I see from Jabari is somebody that wants to just run the ball and like improvise. I don't see a system quarterback that's going to run a system.
Yeah, I think there's also, some potential like mechanical issues there, something that he's doing that Gundy doesn't necessarily like, or something like that. I do think he tends to get a little, antsy in the pocket. He maybe doesn't go through all of his reads, and he could miss an open receiver potentially, or I mean, he's definitely a talented kid, but
so no, it's going to be interesting. We'll like I said, we'll talk about this in a couple of weeks about the quarterback room recruiting, but there is a talented true freshman coming in Tristan Tia, but I do foresee the Beavs potentially going portal on some guys.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so do we do some damn questions?
Yep.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break for the podcast side, and then if you're watching us live, we'll be right back. We just have to put a little break in here. But again, if you're not a member of beaverblitz.com, now make sure to check back. Monday is when the promo starts. We're going to start a week early on our Black Friday special. You'll definitely want to be a member with all of the surrounding the transfer portal and recruiting. Make sure to check it out next week. Like I said, if you want to save a little cash. Okay, welcome back to the damn podcast. We have talked about stats. We've talked about the loss at Air Force and the 5-game skid. Talked about Washington State. It's going to be a senior day. So if you're planning to be in Corvallis, it's always a fun time. Jake, senior day. Do you ever is there anybody that's ever when senior day comes that you're like, dang, I can't believe they're gone?
Josh Gray, Jaden Robinson.
Yeah.
Tyrese as well.
Yeah.
Jake Sanders, just a handful of really good dudes, and it's gonna be weird. Nico Taylor as well as a guy, definitely gonna miss a lot. I mean, all 5 of those guys have been great.
Yeah. They've been great. We've had them on the podcast, a couple of those guys. So yeah, it's every year. It's sometimes it's bittersweet. It's been fun though.
Joel Valadez.
Joel Valadez. Yeah. Josh Green is another one. I think.
Yeah. I mean, Everett Hayes has really bounced back, and I think he's had a nice year. I mean, the stats don't look great, but 2 of his kicks were blocked, and it wasn't really on him. So
yeah.
I think
so no, it's going to be a So we're jumping into questions now. So yes, get to Corvallis, 4 p.m. kick on the CW against Washington State, calling it the Pac-2 Championship. Brian Miller, he said Jabari stares down his receivers, no progression, which sucks. Want him to do so much better. Hopefully he will next year. And then we talked about this briefly, but what are your thoughts on the Air Force D lineman that said it was clear we had no offensive game plan?
I mean, I think he's right. I mean, there was, I just think.
I asked Jake, I said, what was the offense trying to do? And he said, I don't know.
The last 2 road games against Cal and Air Force, like the first drives were always scripted, you always come out knowing what you're going to run, and they've just executed them really badly.
Yeah. And then Brian Miller says, we get to keep Mr. Gray, right? Heck yeah. I think he's a Beaver for life, Mr. Gray is. So I always look forward to his insight in the lodge. Yes. While Joshua Gray is out of eligibility, Mr. Gray in the lodge is never out of eligibility because he is a great poster for us. Okay. Beaver Fuzz want to know if we're going to see some younger guys play. We just talked about that. Black Bandit. I'm sure you have contacts in the equipment room and athletic department. Does anyone give you feedback on what's going on and what I think the question is, how is the mood of the team? How is the locker room? I think Jake and I both kind of heard mixed messages. We've heard, guys are still fighting, which is good, but there's a lot of disappointment as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think guys are understandably disappointed. I mean, especially the seniors and other guys who stuck it out and, they wanted to spend their last season, ending with a trip to a bowl game. But no, they don't necessarily get that chance. Again, I mean, we aren't in the locker room, so we don't really know. I mean, even like the equipment managers aren't in the locker room necessarily, so it's hard for them to tell. But I would imagine it's a mixture of, it's going to be good and bad.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you have, the fight and guys trying to fight and keep up. But yeah, it's 5-game losing streak. Losing sucks. Yeah. I mean, it's just the way it is. So, okay, change of sports here, Jake. We have a men's basketball question. Truman Key, what do you predict the men's basketball team record will be? Over, under 20 wins?
I could see them actually, pushing the over on that. I think they've played really well. I think Tinkle may have something here. Really, this team plays selfless. They play defense a lot better than Oregon State does. And really, the shots haven't been falling yet either. I mean, Isaiah C is one of the top 3-point shooters in the country. He was shot almost 50% from 3 last year at the JUCO level. And he's had a slow start. As soon as his shots start to fall, to kind of add on to that dynamic outside shooting. And then same with DeMarco Minor hasn't really shot the ball very well yet. Like, he's still affecting the game well in a lot of different ways, but he's not getting, he's not shooting lights out from 3. So I think once the shots really start to fall, it's just going to make the team that much better. And again, as these younger foreign guys that are newer to America, like Lataris and Maxime, kind of get more adjusted, I think it's just going to make the bench that much stronger. And, pairing that with what's a weaker non-conference schedule and a weaker conference schedule, I could see this team pushing for 20 wins for sure.
Okay, there you go. Reeser Beeb 23, how many new additions do you expect for football, including the portal and recruits? He expects 35 because this roster needs an upgrade.
I expect 35 to 40. That's kind of right in the lane. Expecting 20 high school kids, anywhere from 10 to 20 portal kids. I think a lot of it just depends on who all transfers out. Yeah. So that it's a timing issue for those wondering, typically right after the season. So after that Boise State game, the coaches will start having their sit-down meetings with players, kind of see where they're at, give them their feedback on where they see them. And then we start seeing things open up and new portal guys coming in. So it moves pretty quickly. Like I said, that first week of December is going to be bananas. Yeah. Noah 72. This one's a tough one. I don't really think we get into it too much, but what do you think the likelihood of seeing any coaching changes? I mean, today's day and age, you never know. I
You
mean,
never know. Exactly. I mean,
I'd say with the combined chances of a coach themselves going to the NFL or going, or getting a better job offer or, if Coach Bray does decide to make a move, which I don't think will happen, but, it's never out of the realm possibility. I'd say with the chances of those three combined, I'd say there's probably a chance that one or two coaches are gone. But, I mean, again, it's just depends on how it depends on how the landscapes across the country kind of plays out.
Exactly. And there's a reason why Football Scoop always talks about the coaching carousel and nuclear winter, because
I love those. Just started reading them yesterday.
Yeah.
The first
one. Things get a little crazy. So like I said, it's too early, too many moving pieces.
They did call it Jonathan Smith moving on last year. They did call that. Beaver Fan 2021, with all the negatives, are there any positives we can take away from this season going into the offseason? Josh Green has had a hell of a year.
Yes, he has. He definitely has.
I was doing some research, and I think Hank Hager posted that Josh is like on track to end his career as like the best single season punting from Oregon State, and number 2 all time behind I think it was Luke Loescher or Hecker. I don't remember which one.
Okay.
So he's had a hell of a season, but he will unfortunately be moving on. So
yes, he because he actually got another year as it was. I also think a positive, if you want to look at it, is that defense is so young. There's a lot of guys getting a lot of reps that will help. I know they look slow or they look out of place now, but that just helps. It's they're thinking too much. So the more they play, the better they look. I always go back to the Keenan Lewis. Back when those guys were freshmen, that they first year take their lumps, but they figure it out. Player, who do you think can make a big jump next year, assuming they stay? That's going to be the question too: is who gets poached away?
I think Taz Reddix is a guy who could take a big jump forward. I think Luka Vincic and Jacob Strand, if they're both fully healthy. Defensively, I think Thomas Collins could take another step forward. I think Takari Hickel, if he's healthy, he's been a guy I've been waiting for 2 years now. He's really excited about him. I think Dexter Foster can take another step forward. Zakai Saez, Hillel Thomas, if healthy. I see that. I think Sala is another one as well. Really just all these young freshmen and sophomores that have been, brighter spots during the darker season.
Yeah, I think Dexter Foster's flashed a lot. Yes, thank you, JEH58. Keenan Lewis and Brandon Hughes. I was like Keenan Lewis, and there were 2 freshman corners. They were, NFL guys. Yeah. I agree. That is the bright spot, I guess. If you want to look for bright spots, that is a bright spot. Anonymous had asked, with OSU's current football facilities, shouldn't they dominate recruiting against other Pac-12 foes?
I mean, facilities aren't always the difference maker. I mean, yeah, they're nice to have, but if you're going to go to a school and play or get paid more, a lot of the kids will take that over, having a nicer weight room. I mean,
yeah,
it's definitely not a bonus, but
the landscape has changed a lot because 15 years ago, facilities were king. That everybody wanted to go to the nicest, shiniest, sleeping pods in the locker room and all the stuff. Now like Jake said, now it's money and it's also playing time. So the top dogs are going for money, and then you have other guys that either they were top dogs, didn't see the field, so they're looking at maybe a lower school. It's just dominoes. The dominoes fall. Guys want to play. So that's just how it works. Let's see. We have some questions in here. Brian Miller says, any chance that Jam gets a medical to come back for another year?
Last we heard, he was applying for one, but he is walking on senior day. So take that for what it's worth.
So, that would be I wouldn't say a slam dunk because it was the 5th game, but like the first drive of the 5th game. So I don't know. It seems like some guys have gotten like 7, 8, 9 years. So, but he might just decide to. He has a baby, time to move on. Cecil Markley in the comments, moving to baseball. Who do you think will be the Friday night guy? and who will be the closer?
Yeah, I think they're going to be two guys who went on the roster last year. I think Dax Whitney is going to be our freshman guy. I mean, or he's going to be our Friday guy, the freshman out of Blackfoot, Idaho. Every report has just raved about him.
98 is what the analytics. Yeah.
Yeah, so he touched 98 as a freshman. And apparently on the Joe Beaver show this morning, Rich Dorman said he had the potential to be the best pitcher in Oregon State history, which is
that's saying something.
Pretty high expectations. And I think the closer is going to be Tanner Douglas, a lefty transfer from Portland. He was 4-0 last year with double-digit saves, had a sub-35 ERA, so he's a pretty good pitcher. I think this baseball team is going to be really good. This team's legit, going to be better defensively, I think. Should be on par offensively. And then the pitching seems to have a lot more depth. They've got really 4 guys who I think could be high-level starters in Eric Segura, Kleinschmidt, Keljo, and then Dax Whitney, obviously. I mean, apparently they no-hit Lynn Benton in one of the scrimmages. That's what I was told. 116-0 with Kleinschmidt pitching the first couple innings. So it could be a fun season from Goss.
That will be fun. They start on February, so only a few months away from baseball. So always a bright spot, Beaver fans, always a bright spot. There's a ton of love in the comments for Jam. Lots of people loving Jam. So it's horrible. There was a question. Kretcher wanted to know why the offense changed so much after Jam got hurt.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good question. I think it was more of having that ability with 2 backs with really 2 different playing styles to now keen in mostly on one back. I mean, I think Saul has done well, but he's a young guy. You know, Jam's a 6th-year player, a 5th-year, 6th-year player, and he complements Hankerson really well. And that 1-2 duo kept up defenses on their toes. Now it's a lot easier to key in on the one guy than, having to – it's a lot easier to prepare for one really good running back than it is to prepare for 2 really good running backs. And, Oregon State, they could also have run some 2-back sets and have them both on the field, which just makes it that much tougher. Paired with Giovanni McCoy's ability on the ground, it would have created headaches for opposing defenses. And now, unfortunately, it just won't happen this year.
Yeah. Brian Miller, do the coaches just not think Hankerson can catch the ball? It was so fun watching Jam be a downfield threat.
I mean, Hankerson's actually second on the team in catches. So he's getting targets. I mean, he's got 23 catches, 24 now maybe, which is 4 or 5 more than the next closest guy.
Another comment. Go ahead.
Which is not normally a good thing if you're running back to your second leading receiver.
Yeah. Uncle Filthy, I think it was linemen getting hurt too. We can't execute the RPO like we did before, or at least not as successfully. So they totally abandoned it. And I would say the blocking.
Yeah, I mean, losing depth up front with Volt near starting guard, then your top backup tackle and Strand, Tyler Moreno as well, just guys who were going to play a lot of football all go down for the season. It's not great. Yeah.
Nova Blue in the comments, men's basketball is good this year.
So far, so good.
So far. They play the Ducks, is it Friday?
Thursday
night.
Thursday at 7, or tomorrow, actually, I guess.
Tomorrow, yeah, we're Wednesday. Okay, so Beavers, Cougars, 4:00 on Saturday. Remember, signing day this year, again, early signing period is Wednesday, December 4th. It is the first week in December. Jake and I are already planning, getting content ready for that. But then things really start shaking up as well, like we've talked about with transfer portal comings and goings. So you'll definitely want to be in the lodge at Beaver Blitz. Black Friday, watch for the Black Friday, Cyber Monday special next week if you're not a member, because it's a great deal. Jake, anything else before we sign off?
Nothing else.
Okay. It's senior day for Jake too on Saturday.
I won't be there though. Yeah.
I know. Jake's missing senior day. So
missing my senior day.
That's okay. We got baseball, basketball, and spring ball with Jake. So he cannot be rid of us yet. But then next week he's actually going to Boise, so that'll be kind of fun too.
Yeah.
Although we'll just have Jake's insight from stands. It'll be good. Until next time, I'm Angie. He's Jake. Catch us on beaverblitz.com. We'll be back with another episode of the Damn Podcast.